My allergies have just had me a wreck all day. I will do my best to cough when I'm not talking, because that way it's easy to cut them out, but there probably will be some coughing.
Yeah, no problem. When we're on the East Coast, man, there's a lot more allergens on the East Coast than in Portland. I don't know how. Mm-hmm. Just the trees are different. Everyone who moved out here was an allergy sufferer, and they only planted less pollinated trees. I don't know.
And speaking of plants,
oh, true. Oh man,
pollen,
killer segue.
It's the segues that don't make the air that really count.
I was gonna try to roll that right into the record.
Oh, great. Okay.
Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
I'm Juliet.
We're going to be talking about plants and other stuff because we've got a challenge review episode. We get a whole bunch of submissions from all of you. We talk about them on the pod, pick a couple favorites, and, that's kind of the format. What was our challenge for this month?
Our challenge for April was Solar Eclipse. Design a common with daybound/nightbound. With bonus points from Juliet for breeding lilacs, that the card is a plant or that makes plant tokens, and MDub's bonus, Path of Totality. Rules text includes each, all, every, or both.
Probably the hardest part that everyone's been talking about is the common restriction. Kind of figuring out how much we can put on a two-sided common. Sort of like maybe a controversial part of sets like the new Ixalan. You got double-sided cards, and then you've got triggers on the backside of commons, and it's kind of hard to know what cards are going to flip into.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can kind of think about that while we're looking at these cards. How hard is it to remember what this card does if it's flipping back and forth?
Yeah, it's a great way to think about it. Just, hold one hand up to one eye and think, can I remember what I just didn't see?
Yeah, because sometimes we'll see like, oh, this is a werewolf that's a mana creature. And on the backside, it creates twice that much mana. Okay, that's not too bad. I can remember what both sides do. Or I think there was one werewolf that had like, the red like plus power minus toughness ability on the front, but on the backside, it was just fire breathing. Oh, okay, those are kind of connected. That's not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But whether whether they feel common or not, we're going to be reading and talking about all these cards. Our first one's going to be from Just Nigel. It's called, the friend side's called Fieldside Friend. 2 and a green for a 2/3, 3-mana 2/3. Fieldside Friend can't be blocked by more than one creature each combat. And it has Daybound. On the backside, we've got Frightside Fiend. And that's going to turn into a 4/4 with Frightside Fiend must be blocked if able. And that has Nightbound. Front side 2/3 that can only be single blocked. Backside 4/4 that has to be blocked, but by any number.
We have seen green lean more and more into this space recently with Rope from the Murders of Karlov Manor set and Full Steam Ahead from Outlaws of Thunder Junction with the you got to deal with me and not anybody else.
Yeah.
The only blocked by one into blocked by everyone. Like, sure, I can see the through line from there. I don't necessarily see the connection to the flavor for these abilities.
Yeah, we got a Scarecrow that can't be multi-blocked. Yeah, that isn't super clear. And then the backside must be blocked. The backside is like crazy looking. It's like a mushroom with long legs walking along under moonlight.
I almost wish that the flavors and abilities were flipped with one another. Something about like, oh, that's our friend. We have to like catch them. Everybody, in the same way that like green unicorns with the lure ability, like there's like a friendliness to them, and then like the fright, it's like, oh, I'm so big, I'm gonna scare everybody away, but you were too close to me, so that you're gonna be the one who blocks me, and you can't even get away. Like something in that fear sort of space.
I guess Scarecrow, I think of defensive as well.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in like kind of a zombie way, maybe. I kind of like the names Fieldside, Fright Sight.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing that could make this work for me would be if the front was can block any number of creatures. Okay, sure, yeah, Scarecrow
Yeah.
can block a bunch of creatures by being, like, in a field, like,
Yeah.
by he's very good at that kinda, like, defensive posturing, and then the night side switch to, instead of I can block all of you, you all have to block me.
Yeah. Pretty cool card. I mean, this is a common. I can believe this is a common. It doesn't really have triggers, which are a little trickier on commons. So I feel like this at least fits the challenge pretty well.
Mhm. We've got a plant, we got a common.
That's true. Do we have a each? Oh yeah. Can't be blocked by more than one creature each combat. All
Hmm.
right.
I'm also realizing that I was overstating the backside a little bit
Hmm.
in thinking it was more of a lure, but it's just must be blocked if able, not must be
Oh.
blocked by each creature if
Okay.
able.
Okay. Also, I think the can't be blocked by more than one creature. That's
Mhm.
usually where that rules text ends. Each combat. Was that snuck in there just to meet the challenge? Normally, that text doesn't have each combat on it.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What's next?
Our next card is from Silly Philly. It's front side Erebus Bloom for a single green mana. It's a enchantment creature plant. It's an O1. It has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create an O1 green plant creature token and daybound. And then the night side of this O1 is Graft Fleesia. It's a black enchantment creature zombie plant. Graft Fleesia gets +1/+0 for each other plant you control, and it has Nightbound. Now, the flavor text for the front is "Wake up and smell the flowers," he said. And then backside, "It'll be fun," he said. Menelaya the Lyra.
0-1 for 1. When a land enters the battlefield, get another plant, but another 0-1. And then if it's flipped on
Mhm.
the other side, it's still an 0-1, but it gets +1 power for each other plant. So if I can build up a couple plants on the front side, when I get over to the back side, I might have like, I don't know, like a 2-1, a 3-1, something like that.
My brain seeing this constellation frame on an enchantment creature
Hmm.
thinks, like, even when I read the word landfall, whenever land enters the battlefield under
Yeah.
your control, create a O1 green plant creature token. My brain wants to go constellation.
Oh.
Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control,
Hmm.
create a O1 green plant creature token because the frame kind of intuits that.
Yeah, the enchantment part is just flavor, it looks like. I'm not seeing anything like that feels enchantment-y.
I mean, it's got Erebos in the
Yeah, yeah.
name, so maybe that's some connection.
I'm not against it. I'm just
Mhm.
kind of looking to see if I miss something. It is kind of fun to have this like cheap. If you do have this in your opening hand, you can kind of count on getting at least like 2 or 3 plants out of it. Um,
Unless it becomes night
oh,
and just stays night.
whoops. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's true. If you play it on turn 1 and your opponent passes, it turns on to the other side. Oh no, it's a disaster.
And so your opponent has some counterplay. Yeah, because do you wait to play your lands? And then, like, "Oh, I didn't play any lands, so
Hmm.
I'm not able to cast 2 spells to turn it back into day."
Hmm. Yeah, normally the one drop daybound is like really powerful, but one dropping this, turn oneing this is maybe not going to work out for you because of that counterplay.
Mhm. It's kind of the opposite of a reckless wait, where, like, the card just doesn't work unless your opponent takes their first turn off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This card is probably a candidate for being good in the deck that the rest of these cards go in because it cares about plants and people want those bonus points. So
Yeah.
the bloom might be good just as part of that curve, even if it gets counterplayed turn 1.
The each is definitely here. That's on the
Oh,
back
yeah.
side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gets +1/+0 for each other plant you control. This is, I think, kind of on the upper but still totally good level of complexity for a common. We're
Hmm. Yeah.
generating O1s, and at the end of the day, we only have one body with power, and
Yeah.
landfall is, it's nice over time, but it's really hard in most places you'd play this card to get 3 landfall triggers on turn 2.
Yeah, yeah. Making O1s, yeah, definitely helps keep it more on that common zone. And we've seen commons that are like, I'm a plant creature, and when you landfall, I make a sapperling or whatever. So yeah,
Mhm.
this isn't over the line to me. All right, next up, we've got a card from Kuyashi Plays. It's called Confident Beauty. 1 and a green for a 2/2. Creature, human, werewolf, elk. It has Daybound and then Soulbond. You may pair this creature with another unpaired creature when either enters the battlefield. They remain paired for as long as you control both of them. But notably, on the friend side, that Soulbond is nothing but romantic. It doesn't do anything for you. You're soul bonded, but just, because it's like a handsome forest guy.
Werewolf elk, of course.
Ah, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I guess you're seeing the potential. You're like, someday that's going to turn into an even sexier beast guy. And on the backside here, we've got Unlovable Beast, creature, werewolf, elk, nightbound. When Unlovable Beast attacks or blocks alongside a creature it's paired with, both creatures get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. It's a 3/3.
With the flavor text, love is fleeting. Side, love, persevere.
Mm-hmm. Something that only has soulbound some of the time is technology that I don't know that I've ever seen before. Uh, I mean, it's pretty well used here.
Mhm. I love this card.
Oh,
Whatever downsides might come from needing to wait to play
Hmm.
another creature based on like, oh, it's night right now,
Hmm.
like I need to wait to play my creature, so I'm going to take a turn off and then I'm going to figure out other 2 spells, but like any creatures I cast as part of those 2 spells aren't going to be the ones that I can pair
Hmm.
for this thing, so I've got to make sure I'm sequencing.
Hmm.
Any like headache that comes from those sequencing is less than on the scale the coolness of the
Oh,
story for
okay.
this. That like the character has to fall in love with the beauty on the
Hmm.
front side in order to like that's just, that's a little narrative, and I love a card with a little narrative,
Hmm.
in the fact that we don't have to deal with any extra abilities on the front side does mean that, like, I think we can keep this in the common space.
Hmm.
It's also,
Hmm.
therefore, even if I don't remember, like, oh, do they must be blocked? Do they get trampled? Do they get +2/+0 or +1/+1? Like, it's gonna be something in that space,
Hmm.
and I can just remember I need to interrupt this or have it be on the night side so that it can fall in love.
Yeah. We've seen like soulbound cards that just like give +1/+1 to both halves of the pair. So power level, I think we're totally fine. It can be like a 2 mana 4/4 trampler on attacks if you work kind of hard or get lucky, but it's not that
Mhm.
all the time. And I don't know, I kind of appreciate that.
Despite the fact that, like, typically you would never want to print, like, Soulbound just on the front and everything,
Yeah.
this to me is a, like, printable card.
I would normally think of breaking the like part-time soul bond rule for just a common, but I don't know, the design kind of ends up benefiting.
Hmm. Our next card is from Crafted Lava is True. It's Suspicious Sunflower. It's a 2/3 for 1 in a red.
Oh.
Feature Plant Vampire. It's a common with Daybound. And whenever Suspicious Sunflower deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it.
Mm.
And then on its backside, it's Lethargic Leech. It's a black creature leech with Nightbound, Ward, pay 3 life,
Huh.
and Defender. And it's an O3.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was reading this friend side, 2 mana 2/3 with like some pretty good snowball ability. It's like, well, this is kind of too intense for a common. But then the backside is like maybe more downside than upside. I lose the ability to
Mhm.
attack.
And hopefully you've gotten one attack off so that this can be like a 1/4 hexproof defender sort of idea. I mean, it's ward pay 3 life, so it's not like ward with a mana cost, but that's at least, it's not no cardboard, but it's certainly less than a, Slith sort of sunflower.
Yeah. This is a little bit like our landfall plant from earlier, where playing it on curve is maybe like a little bit of a liability. If my opponent looks at their hand and they're like, well, I can't really stop a 2/3 on attacks, they could just pass turn. The leech turns into lethargic leech and it never gets his first attack.
I assume, and I could be wrong, that this is an Undertale joke.
Oh, there's like an evil flower in that, right?
I don't think this is really, yeah, because like the evil flower is like the first 60 seconds of that game,
Yeah.
or what have you.
I never finished that, so I don't know what comes of the evil flower.
I don't know anything beyond the tutorial.
Is that downside too scary? I don't know. Like if I'm looking at a couple 2-drops that I might throw in a deck, or I've got some things competing, do I just not play this in my aggressive deck because I'm worried that it'll become a blocker at the wrong time?
I would play this in an aggressive deck with some confidence that I'll be able to flip it
Oh,
daybound
reflip it?
sooner or later. There is going to be a needle you can thread on the sequence. If it couldn't block or attack on the back and just did some other weird orthogonal thing, if it just like wasn't a creature, I think I would rate this worse. But at the end of the day, hopefully a 1/4, sometimes a 0/3. I've played 1/4s plenty of time for 2 mana. I don't think that's what we want to do in most modern Magic the Gathering limited formats and environments.
I guess if I pivot to like not really caring that much about attacking, then maybe this is a little bit better because but then the ward doesn't become meaningful. If my opponent's the aggressor, then the ward is like nothing. I think this card's like cool. I'm struggling a little bit with the play value, but I like that we've got a plant that's not green, and that we can kind of see why it's not green because it's like it's an evil vampire plant.
I just want to take Defender off of this.
Yeah, maybe.
So it's a 2/3 that can sometimes accrue counters if it isn't blocked.
Yeah.
And isn't flipped over. And then you put some counters on this with the front side, and it's this weird little 0/3, 1/4, 2/5 sort of like, it's not going to be as strong because it doesn't have that +2 power and it's not growing in counters, but it has slightly better protection in the form of the ward. Whether that would count as common, maybe or maybe not, but I think you could find a play pattern there that would be common.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of lifelink instead of the ward, so I really feel rewarded for growing it. I don't know. Cool card. Thanks for the submission. Next up, we've got Sage B with Wild Trail Florist, 3 and a green for a 3/3. When Wild Trail Florist enters the battlefield, each player creates a 0/1 green plant creature with this creature must block each turn if able. If you do manage to flip it, you flip into a 4/4, so you've paid 4 mana and now you're back up to a 4/4. It's got trample, and then whenever it becomes blocked, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn for each creature blocking it. All right, so the friend side, we've got a little bit of flavor here. The pheromones plants produce are intoxicating. Then the backside, it makes it much easier to track prey. So I guess the kind of cool thing here is I give my opponent one of these plants that must block. And then with my first attack as a werewolf, when I do get blocked, I go from being a 4/4 to a 6/6 and have trample, which makes it harder for someone to gang up and block and finish off my werewolf on that first attack.
Yeah, this gives you a little bonus pip of damage. It effectively is if your opponent has no creatures, you effectively have a 5/4.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Or a 5/6, I suppose. And so that's a fun way to get just a little bit of extra damage. But then also, if your opponent actually has other creatures. I don't know. I find Rampage really difficult to play against as a defender, as a blocker.
Yeah, you kind of need like a death toucher or a removal spell because normal combat, it's kind of hard to beat this.
Which, on the other hand, if you play this Wild Trail Florist and I'm able to remove it before it ever flips,
Hmm.
or if you're just attacking into it with a 3/3 into, it's like, oh, I get to chump block a free attack. I'm given this free token to
Yeah.
chump with.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, then the florist could play around that by the fact that the plant must attack, and so you can, or must block, so you could figure out something there. But the potential upside of the backside is in some way hypothetically balanced by
Yeah.
giving your opponent a creature token that they can jump block other creatures with, or the front side with.
Yeah, kind of like these little plants that you're just kind of incentivized to sprinkle into the game. And then you have to think hard later. Both of you have to think a little harder later because this thing, got shot onto the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
If this existed on some other cards or this like multi-sided effect, maybe there's like a multiplayer reason why you want to be spraying tokens everywhere. Yeah, this florist adds like just an element to the game without the caster paying a big cost.
This feels to me like a card that would exist at the overlap of a these weird little plant creature tokens, or giving your opponent creature tokens archetype, and a werewolves and transforming archetype.
Oh, okay. Blood artist lifestyle, yeah.
Mhm. You swing in with the werewolf and all of the
Oh.
creatures block
Yeah.
block it, and the werewolf is just like, I'm invincible. You gave me +20/+20, or +16/+16, and I can easily trample over all of you little plants.
Yeah. Yeah, the giving the plant to yourself is like a little bit of upside, and maybe you get to eat that plant for some bonus or whatever. Uh, we only see one card here, but you could imagine this locking into place in a specific format.
Mhm. We have each on the front and the back.
Oh,
We have plants, and this is believable common, but certainly pushing the boundaries, I would say.
yeah.
Our next card is from Crypt Rat. It's Unyaro Pollinator. It's a single green mana for an 0/1 creature insect. It has flying, and when Unyaro Pollinator attacks, another target creature you control gets
Huh.
+1/+1 until end of turn. And Daybound. And then on the backside, it's a green creature. It's a 0/3 Unyaro Beehive, creature insect with Defender. For in a red, sacrifice Unyaro Beehive. Unyaro Beehive deals 5 damage to any target, activate only as a sorcery, and Nightbound.
On the friend side, I've got like a guy who can boost other attackers. This is a 0/1 with flying. When it attacks, it pumps another creature up +1/+1. And on the back side, I've got a kind of bad defender, 0/3 defender, but I can also spend a bunch of mana to cast a removal spell or cast a lava axe. That's any target.
We have a fun kind of callback to Unyaro Bee Sting and Unyaro Bees.
Yeah, the bee sting, kind of like one of the famous.
Is that Mirage? Is that right?
Yeah. It's just it's a shock for 4 mana in green.
Everyone loves a 4 mana sorcery shock.
Yeah, Narnyaro bees can kind of do that mode too. This pollinator, it's a flying green creature, but is not really like offensive in its flyingness. The flying is more just like I wanted to be. I wanted it to be an insect for the flavor.
Like a tiny little signal pest.
Yeah, like a little signal pest. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think flying as a shorthand for this creature can only blocked by creatures with flying. I'm willing to hand wave that shorthand.
Yeah.
How do you feel about a backside lava axe.
It kind of took me by surprise that it can be a lava axe. When I'm playing the friend side of this card and I have to explain to my opponent what my card does. On the backside, hey, I could sack it to spend a bunch of mana and and deal 5 damage.
Oh, it's any target as well.
Yeah,
Obviously a lava axe is one of the best ways to do 5 damage, but
yeah.
also being able to use this as targeted removal is very flexible.
I guess on like a arena context where I could mouse over the card and just see what the other side does, it's maybe not too bad. But my ability to explain this is, I kind of just have to unsleeve it and have them thoroughly read both sides.
Mhm.
Which is true for a lot of DFCs, but maybe, I don't know, maybe we don't want that to be common. I'm not convinced that power level is not common, but complexity level feels a little off.
I think that's reasonable. Even with the sorcery speed, that's a big pile of damage. And not to criticize the flavor
Mm-hmm.
of this, but I don't think the flavor is like so strong that it carries the like, that's the 5 mana, deal 5 damage, any target as a sorcery. Like, I'm going to remember all of those parts because it's like tucked into the narrative.
Yeah, yeah.
I also am like not quite sure about why the bee turns into a beehive at night.
I guess the pollinator, hey, I've pollinated enough now. There's enough food out there. I don't know that much about bees. That we can actually have a hive. We couldn't have a hive before. Or maybe at the end of the day, it goes back into the hive and it's sleeping in the hive.
I guess that makes
I guess, yeah, being able to like sacrifice it at any time, that's fine. Like, I think the gameplay value is fine. But flavor wise, it's a little weird. It kind of feels like when this dies or when this blocks is when it should be dealing a bunch of damage.
I love and miss Hornet Nest, the 2 green O2 creature insect with Defender, and whenever it's dealt damage, you create that many 1/1 green insect creature tokens with Flying and Death Touch.
That was a good one. Just hit it for 10 or something with a fireball.
Mm-hmm. Or Cetizen Tactic, so you can fight
Oh.
it and get a
Oh,
big.
okay.
That was a very hip standard question mark deck. It's a long time ago. I don't remember
2015 would that
standard
have been? Yeah.
formats from. Mhm. I think the overall verdict on this card, though, is if it was just the front side, I'm kind of okay with that as
Yeah.
a green common flyer.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And then the backside, it's fine. I mean, I'm excited to deal 5 damage to people, so I guess I can't downplay too much there.
I don't think this has each or both. Is any one of the options? No, each, all, every, and both.
Each, all, every, both. Doesn't look like it.
But that's okay.
Yeah. All right, next up we've got red base submission. This is called Budding Primrose. It's 1 and a white for an artifact, first non-creature. When this enters or transforms into Budding Primrose, you gain 2 life as daybound. So 2 mana, play it, gain 2 life, and then as it flips back and forth, gain 2 life again a couple times. On the backside, we've got Blossoming Primrose. It's still an artifact, but it has Sacrifice Blossoming Primrose. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery and as nightbound. So you got kind of a trade-off here. If you want to just leave it in play forever, it'll flip back and forth a couple times, you'll gain life a couple times, and it won't do anything else. Or you can either flip it to night or wait until it's night to cast this, play it, and then put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Which is kind of like typically like a 2 mana sorcery, I think, or maybe 3 mana.
This is really neat. I also really applaud, the bonus point of make it a plant. But hey, in this case, it doesn't need to be creature type, creature hyphen plant. This is a plant and it's a non-creature common.
Yeah, yeah. And it feels like comedy. Like the amount of effect that you can get out of this is kind of limited. You're not making like counters each turn, +1/+1 counters each turn. You only get that once. And a common that gains like 6 life over the course of 4 turns certainly feels like it's compatible with commons too.
Mm-hmm. This would be very much a acorn sort of card, but every time it enters or transforms, the amount of life you gain is the next prime number. We gain 2 and then 3 and then 5 and then 7 and then 11 and 13 and onward.
Oh, okay. Because we got a primrose. Is it a primrose? Is not a real thing, right? Is it a primrose normally?
So it is a primrose, but primrose itself comes from primrose, like primrose.
Oh,
It's the first rose. It's the first one of the first flowers that blooms in early spring.
Oh, okay.
And then we kind of develop our own ideas about what prim means. Primrose path, as an idea, comes from Hamlet.
Oh.
One of the many things that gives us.
Thanks, Hamlet, for bringing us roses.
Mm-hmm.
Did they like bloom at night or something? Or that's just the fantasy here?
I don't know, but I don't think any flowers bloom at night unless you have like really specific sort of things where you're only pollinated by bats. Maybe I am not a horticulturist by trade. I think this is more in the idea of, in the prime of its youth versus like, oh, it's blossomed and it's ready to be, it's under a glass jar for the blossoming part, and you could sacrifice the artifact at that point or return the seeds and then have it bud again.
This submission also taught me that there is a wilted rose emoji. Because that was the reaction that people had on this thing. So
you're not using that in response to things every day.
Whenever you see a new obscure emoji, you gotta plot a little bit and think, how can I incorporate this? What meaning can I imbue this with?
Somebody says, listen, I am afraid the call that was going to be this morning is going to turn into a full meeting. We need you all there in person at 10 a.m. And you're just like, my Slack response is wilted rose.
It's like 8:30 on a Thursday, and your friend texts you and says, "Hey, you want to go out?" And you're like, "No, I'm a wilted rose. I gotta stay home." Cool submission, and it's breaking out of the template that we've seen on these other cards, which you have to love.
Absolutely. We've got each, we've got plant, we've got common.
Boom.
Our next card is a submission from Juliet. It's Acorn Barrier. It's 1 and a green for a creature squirrel common 1/1. It has daybound, and 3 and a green tap. Create 2 1/1 plant creature tokens. Put a defender counter on both. Activate only as a sorcerer. And then the nightbound side is Oak Branch Scrambler. It's a 2/2 green creature squirrel with nightbound, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, replace up to 1 counter on each token you control with a +1/+1 counter.
Oh, that's why we're not defender tokens. We are regular creature tokens with defender counters on them. All right, so I'm going to pay 2 mana for this at first for a 1/1, and then 4 mana to get 2 plant creature tokens. They both have defender. But then if this flips afterward, then I could start upgrading those defender plants into 2/2 plants, like not just 1/1 plants. Oh, that's pretty good. Huh.
And so if you do that, this is a opportunity to cast no spells during your turn because you're instead spending 3 and a green for effectively 2 1/1 defenders, but then you have this dream of turning them into 2/2s. It'll flip to nightbound. You still got to carry that nightbound back to your turn, but your opponent would have to cast 2 spells during that turn to deprive you of the chance to get back to your combat and like grow the plants from their little acorn shells into trees with +1/+1 encounters. And like the upside there is you might have 3 2/2s, that's 6 power, and you've spent 6 mana to get there.
Yeah, the kind of like mana sink for something that's like baseline pretty good material, but with some upside, makes a lot of sense for Daybound Nightbound. This is something that I want to do. I want to hold some cards back in my hand. I'm not under a big threat. Let me just get a free card, quote unquote, by spending my mana on these plants.
If your opponent can make it night before this creature comes in, or if they can pretty freely manipulate play back and forth in, with whatever spells or discard or anything they've got, there's counterplay here to keep it on the wrong mode in order to take big advantage out of it. It's like, oh, I dealt with those tokens. I'm going to keep it on Oak Branch Scrambler, and it's just a 2/2. Or your opponent can just remove the creature while the tokens are still 1/1s with Defender, or before you even have the tokens. But essentially, while you still have these 1/1s with Defender, and then it's like, okay, I spent 6 mana and I got 3 1/1s, one of which is gone, and the other 2 have Defender. There's that counterplay there.
Yeah, I think I'm satisfied power level wise looking at the common here. We've been doing the common check on each of these. I'm just trying to apply that to this one. I think power level wise, yeah, it's nice that I have a way to play into my daybound nightbound deck by encouraging the game to go into night by spending my mana on some plants. My opponent just needs any removal spell to kill this little 1/1, and I probably don't want to attack with it even when it's Scrambler. I guess the only question for me would be, is this a lot of text on a common? I guess if the set has like defender counters already, or is manipulating counters already, or something in that realm.
What do you think of this new tech of replace as an idea?
Yeah, that's I think cool tech. If this was the only place it was on, that's maybe what was flagging. Feeling weird as a common if this is the only place we're using it.
It's only on the nightbound side of one
card.
common.
Yeah, exactly. And if we can find other ways to replace these counters, this person can turn +1/+1 counters into flying counters. If we can find a way to sprinkle that throughout the set, then people will be ready for this Scrambler. We have a couple parks nearby that have a lot of squirrels. So at the right time of year, you can see plenty of squirrels just burying stuff nonstop.
When my partner moved from California to Ohio, one of the kind of wild things is that we have so many squirrels here, and I guess they're much bigger out here in the Midwest. I know the acorns are like a totally different shape from the Pacific Coast compared to the Midwest, which that really surprised me. So I was like, oh no, aren't acorns all acorn shaped? Like, no, some of them are like a bullet,
Huh. Acorn burrier. He's just going around burying stuff. It's so instinctual to squirrels that they'll just be like watching you walk by in the park, and they'll just be like miming burying, like moving their hands around. Like, I'm totally not freaked out right now. I'm totally burying a nut.
It's very soothing for them, But
it's like you're tailing someone and they turn around, so you go to tie your shoe. Oh yeah, I definitely needed to tie my shoe right now. Alrighty, this is a cool card. I mean, I'm a sucker for the squirrel, so I'm loving that. Next up, we've got a card from Pat. We've got Gold Medal Field, which is 200 green for an 0/3 creature plant at common. When Gold Medal Field enters, create a Crop Guardian. I think we'll read that in a second. I want to finish this card first. Whenever night becomes day, you gain 1 life for each plant you control. So this is a 3 mana 0/3 that creates a Crop Guardian, and then whenever night becomes day, you get a little bit of life. Now, a Crop Guardian is a double-sided token. It's actually pretty simple. On the front side, a Crop Guardian is a 1/2, and on the back side, it becomes a Spooky Sickle Chain, which is a 2/1.
I don't know enough about the intricacies of the rules as far as how named tokens with rules text work, because treasure and clue and food are all types in addition to being the name of the sort of token.
Yeah.
And in this case, the tokens are token artifact creature scarecrow, which makes sense. And I don't see a reason why we couldn't do something like this. And maybe Magic already has, and I just don't know. I'm just not thinking about it right now. Also, we have a slightly novel token here that we have this day and night.
Yeah, I guess the only other one we've had is the incubate tokens, the little pods from March of the Machine, which turn from like an inert artifact into token artifact creature Phyrexian.
And that playing off of that kind of transform sub theme. In this case, this is a way to get some extra daybound, nightbound permanents on the battlefield, to get more transforming permanents on the battlefield.
Yeah, one of the things with Daybound Nightbound that's kind of funky is if there's only like one or two permanents that have that, you then have to still track it because maybe something comes in later. If we're able to spray a bunch of these like cheap transformy tokens onto the battlefield, then it's more likely that like something still cares about day and night at any given time during the game.
If this is kind of one of the primary creature tokens in the style of, oh, here's the 3/2 Eldrazi token that's going to be everywhere, or here's the zombie token with Decayed that we're going to put on 2 handful cards.
We're like double downing on like, don't worry, there'll be enough Daybound Nightbound in this set. Here's some more stuff that has Daybound Nightbound, so it will definitely come up.
We have multiple arts of Crop Guardians and Spooky Sickle Chains, so you can like pick the one that goes best with your sort of flavor.
Yeah, maybe the Spooky Sickle Chain should be a little more generic. That feels like really specific. Crop Guardian, like I could imagine a bunch of different art for. Whatever.
So we've got, I think, a pretty specific location of this on Lorwyn.
Oh, Gold Meadow,
which I think it's pretty easy to anticipate there could be Daybound, Nightbound with Lorwyn, given Lorwyn's relationship with Shadowmoor and everything. Also given the Scarecrow, and as you say, like Gold Meadow that's one of the main Kithkin places in Lorwyn and Morningtide.
I guess Scarecrow's already kind of a Lorwyn thing. There's a little bit of Scarecrow-y stuff.
Scarecrow could become kind of alongside Construct, one of the primary... Hey, it's an artifact creature of a bunch of stuff. Was it carefully designed? It's a construct. Was it kind of cobbled together or like animated out of stuff? It's a Scarecrow.
Okay.
And potentially deprecate, like Golem in the process.
Sure, yeah. Seems like a fun card. Value check, we're spending 3 mana to get a 0/3 and a 1/2. So we're getting 1/5. That's probably fine. Or a 2/4. That's also probably fine. And then you get a little bit of life every once in a while.
Yeah.
Pat, I know, went through like 8 versions of this. I think they ended up with a really solid one.
I totally agree. I think shifting this to the plant and then the plant kind of brings along its guardian. I think that's a really fun idea.
Yeah.
This next submission is from a new submitter.
Pew, 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 pew. Wah, 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 wah.
Please correct us or let us know how to pronounce your name. This is from Kieran. The card is a single white mana for an 0/1 creature, Whipper. It's a creature plant werewolf with Daybound and First Strike on this 0/1 for single white mana. And the back is Snapper, creature werewolf, Nightbound, double strike on this 0/1. As 1 in green, Snapper gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. So the name together is Whipper and Snapper. It goes from a first strike to a double strike. It's a plant werewolf into a full werewolf. It's an 0/1 into an 0/1 with, the root ball of +1/+1 sort of ability. And the flavor text on the front is "Daw," and on the back, "Daw."
What a funny little card. So it's a 0/1 on both sides. The backside can grow, but temporarily. At first, when I was reading the friend side, I thought the backside was going to like stack a counter on it, maybe, so that when I came back to the friend side, I would have some power. But no, you got to bring the power somehow else. You got to Anthem. You got to throw some auras on there. You got to get your counter somehow else.
It's interesting that this mana sink activated ability is on the back side rather than on the front side. So that you can't use it to spend into Daybound, but maybe you're happy to do this as a way to not cast extra spells.
Hmm.
You are getting a little bit bonus out of the activate only once because it's doubled.
Hmm.
So it's effectively a +2/+1.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, because of the double strike.
Yeah.
This is like an interesting place to put this card. I don't know. You just love having an environment where you're modifying your creatures and you want a little variety in there.
Yeah. The high variance between the front and the back make me a little bit worried about putting this at common because the floor is kind of really low.
Hmm.
I kind of wonder whether maybe the power level is just too low in general, unless you are putting a bunch of auras on this and then taking advantage of the double
Yeah,
strike
yeah.
when the time is right, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe this isn't common not because it's just like crazy powerful or something, but maybe it's not common because you don't want like one of your few low drop creatures at common to be this thing.
Mhm.
You want this to be like handed to more specific players who are doing something more advanced. And that's why you bump it to uncommon, mess with some numbers or something.
I think that makes a lot of sense for me.
All right. Yeah, this is cool. The name's
We've
really
got
funny. Whipper as the name of a dog is very cute. I don't know.
Mhm.
If someone had two dogs, a tiny little terrier named Whipper and a giant dog named Snapper, ooh, I would love that.
Yeah. So we've got plant. The card is hypothetically common. Like it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
commonable.
yeah.
Is there an each or an every or a both?
Once each turn.
Once each turn. That makes
Yeah.
sense. There it is.
Rather than like an inclusive each creature you control, it's like a restrictive each, only once each turn. Yeah.
That's a great novel find.
All right, we're 2/3 the way through. Next up, we've got Mono White Border with New Bloom, a black mana for a creature plant. When New Bloom enters the battlefield, gain life for each creature you control named New Bloom. And it's a 0/1. 1 mana 0/1, gain 1 life. Backside, Carnivorous Chrysanthemum. When Carnivorous Chrysanthemum enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life for each creature you control named Carnivorous Chrysanthemum, and it's a 2/1. So I guess once it's night, you've got a 1 mana 2/1, which is pretty good.
Mhm.
But it's only that half the time, or however you want to slice that up. And otherwise, you gain 1 life, or your opponent loses 1 life. Or maybe in like a specific situation, 2 life, or maybe very rarely 3 life.
This is in that draft a bunch of me.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to want, but like, hey, I got 4 of these, and occasionally they do something. I like 1 mana 2/1s with upside and downside. I
Mhm.
think they are a really good to explore magic design space. I think this one might be a little too dependent on the stars aligning in your
Mm.
favor for it to be really playable or
Yeah.
really fun. Even in the deck that has, hey, I have 12 of these. I- Is it that fun to play?
Yeah. The thing I see the most promise in is this like collect them all on a small creature where my payoff is my opponent losing like a little more life.
Mhm.
If I'm just kind of looking at the backside here and pretending that the front side doesn't exist that much, it is kind of cool that I have this like I can deal 1 damage that doesn't matter that much. But I get some damage in with my early creatures, so my opponent's life total is kind of threatened. And when I draw more of these cheap creatures later, they're another 1 damage or maybe 2 damage or maybe 3 damage. And that's like, oh, I feel good for drafting 6 of these. Like it feels cool that I did that.
Mhm. Kinda wish there was some way to, to get the attacking body
Hmm.
and the life loss on opposite sides.
Oh, funny.
maybe not New Bloom as a 2/1 for 1 on its front side or whatever, but like some combination of things so
Mm.
that the can't attack or doesn't attack sort of one, you're able to drain your opponent. And then on the other side, it's like, oh, I can't drain you, but I can at least attack in, so that there's always something to sort
Mm.
of do with
Mm.
the card.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm thinking, hey, I kind of like the aggressiveness of this card, and either side of it, I get some aggressiveness. Yeah, that makes sense.
Our next submission is from Ludos GD, Sunlight Destroyer. It's 2 and a red-green hybrid for a 3/3 creature plant warrior with daybound, and Sunlight Destroyer attacks each combat if able. And then on the backside, it's a 0/6 defender creature plant warrior, red and green with nightbound. So on the front side, we have a 3/3 for 3 that attacks each combat if able. And then during night, it's a 0/6 defender.
I don't know why the first thing that jumped into my stupid head when I heard you say Sunlight Destroyer was Piccolo blowing up the moon in Dragon Ball.
Sure. Yeah.
This plant is like gonna, shoot a Kamehameha at the sun and usher us into eternal night.
Mhm.
Uh,
The flavor text on the front is "Beware of sunflowers, old Kreitel's property sign." And then on the backside, "Please do not step on the grass." Old Kreitel's property sign.
Wait, are they flipping that sign like a open and close sign at a store? I guess you
I
enchant your sign with daybound,
Mhm.
nightbound, and then it flips itself.
Yes, of course.
I mean, it's common. Absolutely cannot take that away from this card.
Is it pretty low power?
Yeah,
Does it feel?
and the appeal isn't super high on this for me. This feels like the 23rd card in the Lorwyn, like elf deck or whatever, where it's like, I just need something with that creature type tag, either warrior or plant on here. And
Mhm.
I'm willing to take a card that's a little soft otherwise, just to get that creature type.
Mhm.
I think there's something kind of cool of like a creature that kind of changes back and forth, and like sometimes is a cool attacker and sometimes is a good blocker. Like that feels like it shakes up the battlefield pretty often.
I think there's a little bit too much tension
Hmm.
for as far as like what decks would want either side, and also the ability to play around the different parts of it. Is it wild that my brain wants the defender backside to be a 3/6 on the back
Oh,
since it can't attack and
hmm.
half the time can't block?
Yeah, but to be like a great defender when it's a defender and not
Mhm.
just like a, I don't know, passable mediocre one. I guess if like you do want you've actually got all of your ways to dump mana in your Gruul deck, your squirrel or whatever. So when it's nighttime, hey, that's time for me to like activate all my activated abilities and really get really far ahead of my opponent. And then they're desperate to flip it back to the front because I actually like shielding up once in a while.
Mhm. We've got each, we've got plant, and we've got common.
Boom. No, that's great. Next up, we've got Gabe Lincoln's submission. It's called Blooming Corpse Flower, and it'll cost you 2 black green, so 4 mana for a Golgari card. It's a 2/2, 4 mana 2/2. Creature zombie plant. When it becomes day, put a +1/+1 counter on each insect you control. It is daybound. On the backside, it is Dormant Corpse Bud, an artifact with tap, add black green. And nightbound. You know what? That's kind of what I wanted out of the last card, also a dormant card. Hey, when it's nighttime, I don't really get to attack anymore, but I do get to start to get like kind of ahead. I'm building up a big advantage over my opponent while it's nighttime.
If we had a day night on Ravnica, this also does feel kind of Golgari in that corpse jack, corpse flower sort of
Yeah, yeah.
plant undead space.
It's kind of interesting that this like rewards insects and this isn't an insect.
Mhm.
If this is the first daybound nightbound card in the game and you're playing this on turn 4, you're stuck with something that's like kind of a lemon until it flips to nighttime and then you get like a shot of mana
Mhm.
And then I guess you're casting a bunch of insect spells during that time. Trying to get your hornet's nest down.
So you spend 4 mana and then wait at least a turn cycle to get
Hmm.
to night, unless you've got other cards that can already have made it night, at which point you're spending 4 mana directly for I'm trying to think of what type of artifact creates 2 mana.
A Sisay's ring or whatever.
Sure, yeah. I don't know that the backside feels great. I mean, I love getting more mana. I love being able to spend it
Yeah.
on things. I think that is great. It makes this feel weirdly commander-y
Okay.
because, like, okay, when do you want to spend 4 mana to be able to be sure to have 6 mana next turn? It's like, oh yeah, that's a huge part of commander is 4 mana ramp spells to be like very confident on the mana for the rest of your game.
Yeah, and Commander, each 2 extra mana you add to the board is another cast of your Commander late game. The payoff for having too much mana exists. You get extra cast, whereas like 1-on-1, without a Commander, without mana sinks, you can over ramp pretty easily.
It does let you cast 2 spells
Yeah.
more
Yep.
easily
Very much so.
to turn the night into day. I think that's a good synergy compared to putting the add mana on the front. It's like, well, I'm not going to be able to use this mana much.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And like if there are a bunch of insects, if this format has 10 insect cards available to it, and I could have a bunch in my deck, and I cast 2 of them, and one of them even makes an insect token, and then it flips back, and I end up putting 3 counters on things, I've gotten my 4 mana's worth at that point.
Mhm. Does this feel common?
I think of the common mana rocks as being like quite simple, like a Sisay's ring.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Alternatively, what if there are 10 of these and all of them are
Oh,
backside,
okay.
artifact, tap, add, color
Yeah.
pair of mana?
Yeah, all of the common gold DFCs are all 2-color mana rocks on the back. Yeah, that'd be cool.
And I think with that sort of extension, then it's like, yeah, this gets total points for common because there's totally environments where, yeah, that's what a common looks like.
Yeah, that was a cool card.
We've got each, we've got plant, we've got common.
Boom.
Our next submission is from Xena, Distraction Incarnate.
No, no, no,
It,
no, no, no. This is a technicality because Xena has been participating a lot and you make the pack. But I'm
Mhm.
submitting design challenge, you get the new, 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 new.
So the daybound side of this common is Monotonous Peacekeeper. It's 3 white and a blue for a 2/5 creature human cleric. When Monotonous Peacekeeper enters the battlefield, put a shield counter on each player.
Whoa.
Daybound. And then the Nightbound side is Chaos Monger. Creature Werewolf Cleric. 5/2.
Ah,
And it's got like black red color
okay.
implication, I
Yeah, yeah,
think.
yeah.
So it's the backside, the Nightbound side is a 5/2 with when Chaos Monger is turned face up, it deals 3 damage to each player.
Huh.
Which I think in this context is when this creature transforms into Chaos
Yeah, yeah,
Monger,
yeah, yeah.
it deals 3 damage to each player, which to each player, but then we've potentially put shield counters on those players, but just during the one ETB. So after you've gone through one whole flip, you've punctured the shield counter, or you've pinged your opponent to puncture the shield counter the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, the friend side on this, like an Azorius sort of like hey, everybody gets like a 1 free hit. That's kind of cool. How does a shield counter work on a player? Does that prevent just one
I
source, or like if I get attacked by 2 creatures, does that shield counter protect? Do I choose which creature it protects from, I guess?
I don't know how that would work in presumably you're being attacked by 2 creatures.
Yeah.
Sort of
Yeah.
idea. The shield counter text for creatures is If it would be dealt damage or destroyed, remove a shield counter from it instead. Yeah, I don't think this pre.
Yeah, this would be new technology, which is cool. Like, I think this is like an interesting idea. You can imagine like a battle bond or, commander draft card. I guess if I'm the monarch, I want shield counters because that'll prevent me from losing the monarch from being dealt damage.
The flavor text on the front of Monotonous Peacekeeper is "Fear not, feel not." And then on the backside of Chaos Monger, it's "Revel in chaos, revere chaos."
Feels very Space Marine
Yeah. I was thinking
or
something very
Chaos
similar.
Marine, or I don't know.
I mean, Warhammer,
Yeah.
the Chaos Gods,
Yeah. I've just played the video games. I don't know the lore that well. I think
That's our other podcast that we do.
Oh.
For first Tuesday of every month, Tim and I talk about the flavor and lore of Warhammer.
Yes. I've only played the video games. You've only read one of the comic books, but that's all we need.
I watch a lot of YouTube videos while I'm working on other projects.
We wouldn't be the first Magic podcast to pivot to Warhammer to great success, so.
I believe it.
I think one thing that's a little funky about this card that might get a thumbs down for me is you're casting this with blue and white mana, and it becomes a red and black creature, but at no point did you spend red and black mana. And so I don't know that I like that we're getting an out of pie effect on this backside here.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great point. Especially if it's already night. Then the shield counter never ends up on the creatures that we are. At that point, then, though, you are spending 3 white and a blue for a 5/2. But then if you are cycling day night, then you are dealing a pretty sizable amount of damage to all sorts of players.
Yeah. The amount of technology we're getting, I think, is pretty high on this card, especially for something that does feel common. So I don't want to take away from that part, but if I was thinking, should I put this in a set? If I'm voting for this on a you make the pack, I'm like, the color stuff is kind of holding me back from the 2 thumbs up.
It feels like one of those old border sort of cards that, like, hey, you hit threshold. Now this creature hates its kind.
Yeah, they become black creatures. Don't have black mana, but somehow get a black ability. Yeah, a little pie bendy in that way too.
And so I think a modern version of this card would probably have a different mechanical execution to be a little bit more strictly pie.
Yeah.
But it does feel like, if a version or an iteration of this card existed as like, that came out in Judgment and we just, the pie was different back then. We'd be like, you could do weird things if they didn't come up in most games, just not treated as a precedent.
And you could maybe like make this red white or something, and then it would feel good because you got the white shield counters and the backside dealing damage. So there's some tweaks depending on what the design intention is here to bring it back in line. All right, our next one up here is from Toasty, Faultless Cultivator, which is 2 and a green for a 2/2, 3-mana 2/2, creature elf druid. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green plant creature token. And then on the backside here, it just upgrades the creature to a 3/3 vigilance. We're staying simple. We're staying cool. We actually I don't think we got like just here's a guy, they bring a plant. And right at the end here, we get, this is the common that like, you might guess that we would be able to receive, but it took until today to get that submission.
Ideally, you want to play this on the day side so you can get the token and then flip it over rather than playing it into the night side. But even playing into the night side, I'm not complaining about a 3/3 vigilance for 3. The floor is at a nice rate and the ceiling is at a nice rate, I think.
Faultless Cultivator, She Knoll Nurturer. She is like a proper noun, it seems like. She Knoll. What's your guess on the flavor here? It starts as an elf druid and transforms into an elf druid.
Hmm. Maybe the creature is coming with like, it enters the battlefield carrying a little, like, plant in
Hmm.
a pot? You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I've just moved to this new grove. I've moved to this knoll, and,
Hmm.
like, I'm bringing a little plant guy with me, and then I'm planting it, and then once it's growing up, once it joins the, like, the forest, you know,
Hmm.
it's going and living with your basic lands, or it's just its own green plant now. Now
Hmm.
I'm a part of this place. I'm growing to be kin with this forest. I'm a little bit bigger and I'm vigilant because I'm kind of nurturing this thing rather than
Hmm.
I don't know, the nuance between nurture and cultivate I don't think has a lot of clues for us. So it would just be extrapolating out from the mechanical size of the body and the keyword.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, this is cool. Super solid, super common. Do we have it each? Whatever. Might be missing that.
Don't think so. I
Yeah.
don't think we have a both.
But super cool. I play this, I get an extra 1/1, and then I upgrade a little bit, so I'm getting a little bit more than I pay for. Yeah.
This is maybe one of the most common cards
Yeah.
with the kind of weird caveat that this plays best in like a limited sort of environment where you aren't playing a nightbound, like another creature with daybound nightbound before it, rather
Mhm.
than a lot of the times oh, I'm playing a bunch of werewolves and then I can like really plan around the daybound. Nightbound. In this case, if I played another faultless cultivator early in the game and I play another one
Hmm.
like later in the game, I'm at a risk of losing that
Yeah.
token upside
A little bit
because
of a gotcha,
Nightbound is on the.
maybe.
Mhm.
Okay, I can believe that. We had one more submission that didn't make it into the thread, but it's from
Oh.
James Gover, who has been submitting cards to Beacon of Creation since before I even heard an episode of it. So,
Yeah, I think before you or I were ever connected to Beacon of Creation.
so we gotta respect the old hats, the graybeards. This is just a scarecrow, 2 and a green for an artifact. All tapped creatures with flying have -1/-0. All untapped plants have +0/+1. Sort of attacking flying creatures get 1 less power, and all your plants, while they're untapped, your plants can block with 1 extra toughness. But as daybound, so it's got a nightbound side as well. The name of the nightbound side is a very effective scarecrow. What a great name. It feels like a children's book almost. And it's like a little scarecrow with a magic wand. This turns into a 2/4 with vigilance. And it has when this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into a very effective scarecrow, choose up to 2. Target creature with flying gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Target plant gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And so if this enters during night or it flips into night, you get to
Mhm.
murder a flyer or buff up one of your plants. And it's not a plant itself, it's a scarecrow. So you got to supply the plants.
I suppose the up to especially matters if there are no plant and you are the only person with a flyer and you've
That's
got like
true.
a 2/2 flyer, you don't want to necessarily plummet it right out of the sky.
Yeah, yeah. Good.
Daybound side feels real weird to me for a common.
Hmm.
You do want to play this scarecrow alongside plants and against flyers, so that's on flavor.
Because this is not a plant itself, this kind of feels like maybe like a intimidate, the old keyword. Hey, I'm
Mhm.
good against certain kinds of decks and I don't do anything against other kinds of decks. This really hammers flyers on both sides. On the front side, it probably slows down flyers by almost half, losing 1 power off a flyer. And then on the back
Mhm.
side, it just murders any small bird. So like if you're playing against that flying deck, this scarecrow is going to be absolutely amazing. And if you're a plant deck as well, then you get some extra juice on top of that.
If I printed this card, it would be an on.
Yeah. Yeah, uncommon feels it's got a little too much math going on and
the non-creature sort of front, but it's still affecting math or affecting combat, as you say, with that math. Into the backside, like 2/4 vigilance that is also repeated removal.
Yeah, if it didn't have the murder part, if it just like when it flipped to night, boosted up a plant, I could almost get there. But because it's killing creatures, I feel good about this being uncommon. Yeah.
It skates nearby
Yeah.
the bonus point there. And it does have all on the front.
The flavor level is really high on this, and the story level I think is kind of cool too, where you got this like motionless scarecrow on the front and then like a really cute scarecrow on the back battling a bird with a magic wand. So all that stuff really hits for me. I guess one of the tests that we were thinking of earlier was like, how hard is it or how surprising is it what's on the backside of the card? And I guess thematically, it's not too surprising what happens on the backside, but the backside, like murdering flyers, would be like kind of a shock, I think, if you didn't know it was coming. That's the kind of thing where I cast just a scarecrow and I have to like, just for honesty's sake, like say, hey, I really have to tell you what's on the backside of this because it's really important game information.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, what was it, Bobby with 3 B's and 4 Y's or something like
4Y?
that?
Yeah, something like that.
You're always going to get some swings from James, which I always appreciate. Some crazy cards. All right, that was all 16 of those. We actually got a ton of submissions. Wow, that's great.
32 card faces total.
Or we got the 2-sided token, so we might we had 33.
Yeah, 33. Uh-huh. Not a prime number.
Rip. Do we want to pick a favorite or two here?
I love the narrative of Confident Beauty, Unlovable Beast.
Oh, that's the one that pairs on one side but has the pair bonus on the other.
Yeah, there's something about I don't know. I think the story and the mechanics work really well together for me for that. And, commons don't necessarily need to excite you in the way like mythics do, but it's really nice when a common can.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at that, I'd be like, okay, whoever's designing the set is telling some interesting stories that I want to go, give Soulbond a second chance for.
Mm-hmm.
Which is saying a lot given how rough Avacyn Restored was.
Mm-hmm. I'm noticing, looking at this again now, that the Confident Beauty is also holding a gold horseshoe. Not only am I handsome, I've also got a lucky charm. It's just upside on this guy. I think, I guess the like squarest, fairest, printablest one, maybe to me, is Pat's gold medal field. That's the 03 that makes the Crop Guardian. That's the transforming like 1/2 to 2/1 to 1/2 to 2/1 token. Like that feels like something you could just throw in a set like that. I could believe that's like a real card in a set. I guess environment wise, you'd need a lot of these Crop Guardians, but that also sounds fun. There's some pent up demand for Scarecrow stuff. If you have a card that makes multiple Crop Guardians, people are going to get excited for that. Yeah, so maybe that's in terms of winning by the book, winning by the rules. That has to be the pick for me.
Yeah. I would also love to see the set that has just a bunch of these scarecrows and a lot of stuff that they use them for.
Yeah. A lot of cool tries, like really inhabiting this mindset of like, what can we do on a DFC on a common? It's like really digging into like looking at, does that feel like too much? Does that feel like too much? It's just great to like look at 16 cards in a row and try to get my gauge correct on what this should be.
Mm-hmm. Because a double-sided card, you want there to be a story. You want there to be a narrative to the card from the front to the back. But also because it's daybound, nightbound, and not just transform or MDFC, that codifies a specific type of relationship, which also involves like switching back and forth between the two states. Which is one reason why most of the like daybound, nightbound commons that we see are werewolves, where the story is very easy. It's person in some context, and then it is werewolf in that context.
Yeah. Like we saw a couple cards where it's like, I'm clearly getting stronger because I'm getting older. And then when it turns to day again, I guess I revert. I don't know. It could be a struggle to get that story exactly lined up if going backwards doesn't make sense for the story.
Yeah.
All right. The end of one challenge means the beginning of another one, and you've really been cooking on this one. Let's hear this one.
So our next design challenge for May is you may cast it, design a cascade card for 60 card play for a color combination that hasn't had it yet. So in this context, it would be like, blue red or red white or white black or black green. We've got bonus points for this, which are sound the Alara, give it an Alara sort of flavor, any of the shards or combination or things like that. That was last month. Don't make it a flower.
Mayflower? No, get out of here.
And bonus point, mayhem, care about or use cards in graveyard.
Yeah.
And the one last note is you can also use discover instead of. That's due May 31st.
I did not know that there were 4 color pairs that had not had a cascade card yet. That's some premium trivia.
It depends a little bit because Ethereum Horn Sorcerer does exist in blue-red, but it doesn't really count because it's never been it's a plain chase card in the way that like Shardless Agent was, but like Shardless Agent is a 60 card these days, whereas Ethereum Horn Sorcerer, I believe, is strictly a commander card. So I include that in the caveat of design a cascade card for 60 card play.
All right. I like it.
You can design a card that has a bunch of stuff and then also cascade. But you could also design what is the smallest effect possible on a card and then cascade and then figure out a way to make that a particularly marginal effect that maybe some specific decks would want and tie that into it being a gold card at the same time. So what can you do in that kind of narrow 3 mana gold card in the style of existence?
Yeah, that's like sort of a danger zone for things like Modern, right? Because of Living End and some other like costless cards, but that have huge effects. So I guess maybe if you're trying to design the 3 mana cascade spell, what does this do in the world of those kinds of Living End decks? Or rhinos, or
we recently saw Violent Outburst become banned in Modern because it's instant speed cascade, regardless of the creature pump part. Shardless Agent coming to Modern was a really big deal. That's a creature, a 2/2 creature isn't a lot, but hey, that gray ogre comes with a big prize.
With 2
Demonic Dread
4/4s,
used to be Demonic Dread used to be super played, but hasn't seen playing in a while because it requires a creature to target. And so we've seen more of a shift over to Ardent Plea. It's, there's definitely space there to still do something interesting, do something that has some upside or downside because, you want to be cascading. Anyways, I'm really excited to see what everyone puts together.
Me too. That's our podcast for the week. Hop on the Discord so you can submit that kind of stuff. We've also got You Make the Pack starting up, so be sure to join in on that. Thanks again for another great episode, great challenge, all that kind of stuff, Juliet. You got anything you want to tell people about?
The Moonshot Podcast Network is doing another big charity stream this May, the weekend of May 24th through May 26th. And I'm really excited for some fun stuff and hopefully to not have very, very bad case of COVID, which I had during last year's stream. And I had to pull out of a bunch of blocks and we had tech problems and everything. So I'm really excited this year to be a part of raising some money for some good causes.
And it's just a few the most chaotic fundraisers you've ever watched on Twitch sometimes. Just a good time all around.
Yeah, that'll be coming up that last weekend in May.
I'll look forward to that. If you need to find us, Discord is the way to do it. I'm at Tim F. Riley. I think you're also on co-host Folly Have I finally memorized
Yeah.
it? All right.
I'm at Folly on co-host. You can find my writing there.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening.
And always remember, cultivate saplings. Is this a joke that people get? Is counterweight like an accessible? Is an animal out of context an accessible idea?
I have no clue what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
Oh, in Counterweight, the Friends of the Table season, there's one episode that's like thousands of years in the past, and it introduces like rigor and liberty and discovery as like the first divines in a real way. They have these like maxims, they have these things that you have to live by, but also these ideas that are like twisted around by rigor. And so one of them is like cultivate saplings, that you, hey, it's good to help things grow and everything. It's good to help things that are partway growing to finish their growing. But another one is like, you've beaten your worst days. Tomorrow you'll be ready to go out there and chop down trees again. Like, it's like, ooh, these are like helpful things, but they're also like the grind of capitalism seeping into even the wisdom that you tell yourself. Anyways, that's cultivate saplings is just a kind of byword of the early Friends of the Table. It's a niche reference.
Yeah. You leave it in there. I don't care.